You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Shoe In Show. Matt, there's so much going on in this world.
Yeah.
So much happening in the footwear industry right now. The series we've been rolling out are footwear industry leaders in different segments, different categories, talking about what's happening in real time. So I'll let you tee up who we have today to talk about and share across the industry some great ideas and things to think about.
Yeah, Andy, our guest today is one of my favorite people in the industry because she has the energy levels needed to help navigate her company through these challenging times. And that's Michele Love. Michele, you are currently the Chief Executive Officer of Sunrise Brands within Sunrise Brands, the footwear and accessories division. You have been in the industry for a long, long time and have what we call an amazing shoe story. And that's one of the things we ask people as they are new to Shoe In Show. What is your shoe story? So with that, Michele, welcome to Shoe In Show. It is such an honor and privilege to have you with us. And my expectation is that this is actually going to be a super fun conversation. So don't prove me wrong.
All right. I will try to be fun. Thank you, Matt. Hey, Andy. I am going to start out by saying there is a reason my husband never wants to dance with me, because I always try to lead and I do kind of flip conversation. So I'm going to take 1 second, interview Andy, because yesterday I saw a post about you being 13 years cancer-free. And I just want to say, way to go. We have that in common. I am 6 years. I had breast cancer. But the message you gave on LinkedIn, I thought was super powerful, especially as a call to our younger listeners and younger people to never go without coverage. And you actually said it's worth the cost, and just as important as coverage as a salary when looking at jobs and celebrating tonight. Did you celebrate last night?
I did. We had a great time. We went out and called a music show. So, but yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And congrats to you too on being cancer free. My doctor's called on a routine exam. So never, if you got healthcare coverage, you probably got a free physical with that. And so never neglect that. And mine was called when I was 29 years old. And I was working on Capitol Hill and didn't make much money. And I had considered not having coverage to have extra cash in my pocket. And that would have been a catastrophe if I did not have the coverage that I had. So that's in part why I was sharing that was, being young and thinking about coverage and thinking about costs. And it's not worth not having the coverage every day of the week.
And I think the same thing. I know this is about shoes, but we'll get to that. I think, same with me. I got the mobile mammography to come to outside Nordstrom, and I called it the party bus. And because I sat on the board of Swedish Hospital, I wanted to set an example by going in first. And I always say, hey, can you squeeze me in? Haha. But they caught it there, and I had just had a mammogram 6 months ago. So I think what you're saying is, guys, we love you. We need awesome shoe dogs out there. Take care of yourselves. Get great insurance. And honestly, I've helped more people who just are a little, obviously for good reason, nervous. If you ever want to reach out to me, I'm easy to find, and I'm sure Andy wouldn't mind too. So there we go.
Absolutely.
That's very kind of you.
Okay, so I'm super excited to be here. My story. Well, it's funny. I had a party a few weeks ago, and somebody gave me a piece of art, and it said, "A life lived wild is a life well lived." And they thought of me, and I thought, okay, well, wild not in the sense of like getting up on a bar and dancing, although that has happened in my youth, but really about a wild adventure, taking chances, looking at your career, not being afraid to sometimes just do things that are a little outside the box, because that's where we grow and we learn. So it's been great. I started my shoe career selling shoes to put myself through college. I lived above the shoe store, and my rent came out of my commission check. So I was very motivated to sell a lot of stuff. It was right next to a Baskin Robbins, and because I didn't have any money, they would leave me the bananas at the end of the day from the banana splits that they didn't use. I still can't eat
Oh
bananas.
my gosh, that's unbelievable! 31 flavors in a banana.
31,
It's crazy.
31 flavors. So if anybody loves this and you want to send me banana bread, don't do it. My dad was a writer, and so I think about my life in chapters. So, like I said, my first chapter was living above the shoe store, getting out of college, and I followed my high school boyfriend to LA in search of something. I did not know what that was. I had $60, a suitcase, and a sofa to sleep on from one of my friends from high school. And that was really sort of my first chapter of taking my career as selling shoes and with a college degree. Chapter 2 is I did find something, and I found love, but it wasn't with my boyfriend who I had followed, who went right back to our hometown. I found love at Nordstrom, where I spent 32 years. And you know what? It was such a privilege because I had the chance to work with the third and fourth generation of Nordstrom family, and especially Mr. Bruce Nordstrom, Blake, Eric, Pete, and down the road, Jamie. The thing that was amazing that kept me there for 32 years was the culture. And you know what? We can't put a price on that as leaders of what is the environment? What are we creating as a culture that keeps people, hopping out of bed in the morning with a smile on their face and skipping to work? And for me, there were obviously trying times. Walking a stockroom with Blake Nordstrom, which anybody who's listening who ever did that, those are trying times. But like I said, the culture is what kept me there for a very long time. I was given opportunities I never thought I would have when I started selling shoes. I went from merchandising, running stores. I was in charge of designer, and then went to the rack where I ended my tenure as SVP.
So before we head to the next stop along the Michele Love journey of fun,
it should be a movie.
This should totally be a movie.
Right?
Who's going to play your love interest, George Clooney? Because that's what your LinkedIn photo shows.
Yeah, I'm coming back to tell you my George Clooney story. He is hot. He is amazing. I'm sorry. He is married to an amazing woman, but he is one of the funniest, most authentic. I'm in love. In fact, when I met him, real quick segue, I flew to an event in LA from Seattle, and I was 9 months pregnant. My doctor said, don't go. I'm going to sit next to George Clooney. And I did go into labor a couple days later, and we had already picked out a boy's name. And I'm like, I'm naming this kid George. I didn't. My husband was like, that's weird. No, my husband goes, that's a little weird and creepy. But, I still call him George once in a while when nobody's listening. But anyway, he's cool.
I'm so glad you said no, because if you said yes, I'm like, oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, I know how she introduced him. I know exactly how Michele introduced herself to George Clooney is Michele Love you and leaned in.
I love you. I'm naming my baby after you. So one of the real quick things before we go to my next chapter is one of the most important things about the Nordstrom culture is how it is steeped in philanthropy. And this is another part of sort of my call to the industry to use your skills and your influence to do good, because collectively we are a powerful group. And so I was part of a grassroots charity, and it was called Shoes That Fit. And our organization still, because I'm still on that board, is to tackle one of the most visible signs of poverty in America by giving children new athletic shoes to attend school with dignity and joy, prepared to learn, play, and thrive. It's so important. And we talk a lot about, depression and all this other kind of stuff. And it starts with some of the stuff that we can do to make these young people, our next generation, fit in. So with Nordstrom and my being there for so long, they trusted me. They adopted the charity. We went from one school in California to schools in all 50 states and DC. And this year, Shoes That Fit will support 150,000 kids in 1,600 schools. So, again, I mean, that was part of what made me feel so whole there. But again, I think there's a real call to action. I have 6 children, which I had during my 32 years at Nordstrom. And, I think about how important it is. And you guys know when your kids are going back to school, how exciting it is when they get a new pair of shoes. And as a mom, it was something that just floats my boat, you guys, just makes me feel happy.
That's awesome. No, and that's so important. And this industry does a good job at this. I mean, it really does, whether it's 210 or Souls for Souls or many of the others. So kudos to you and kudos to Nordstrom for setting that tone. And it's continued on even to those executives currently at Nordstrom who we interact with. Tacey Powers comes to mind. There's still that part of the DNA of the organization that thrives, in all honesty.
And that's the thing. I mean, that's why I like this podcast, because it can kind of take any direction, but to know there's a real heartbeat in the footwear industry. And to your point, I mean, it is a lot of people do a lot of great heavy lifting to make a big difference. So that's cool. So then chapter 3, who cares? You want to hear chapter 3 of my movie? Andy, you're going to help me in my movie?
Do it. Columbus, Ohio, right?
Oh, yeah. This girl got rooted out of the West Coast. I was heavily recruited by DSW and moved to Columbus, Ohio. It was a super difficult decision to leave, but I was given this amazing opportunity to be in the C-suite as Chief Operating Officer and then later Chief Commercial Officer for DSW. I was so nervous when I gave my notice. I did throw up in Blake's trash can in his office, which still goes down in history. So, but that's how hard this decision was made. But I have no regrets. It was, and that's this life lived wild. Take chances, try new things. It took me a while, but when I did, like I said, it was a great experience. It was a turbulent time. We fueled the business with new thinking and innovation, but we bought a lot of companies. We acquired a Canadian shoe company, and we bought Vince Camuto, one of the biggest wholesale fashion brands out there. And so it was great, but then COVID hit, right? And I think we'll talk about, what's happening in the world today. These are not easy times for leaders, and the world was flipped on its head. And so the rule of last in, first out applied. But I would never take back that decision. And it's a terrific organization. And I still have a lot of friends there. But like Nordstrom, I also supported marketing. And I got to choose with a couple other people who our philanthropic partner was going to be at DSW. So in enters Matt Priest, who I met, who also was on the board. I joined the board of Souls for Souls. And guys, this mission is unbelievable. I mean, good God, another organization that we can help through the power of shoes, right? So this mission was twofold. One is called Micro Enterprise. It's basically opening like resale shops in the poorest countries and helping to break the cycle of poverty. And this is the other thing, and keeping shoes and clothing out of landfill and on people's feet. I don't know any business in retail that's not talking about how important Mother Earth is. And there are so many ways to contribute to this. So since 2006, the organization Matt and I are on, Souls for Souls, have distributed more than 73 million pairs of shoes and clothing in 129 countries. You can truth me on that, Matt. Does that sound, I'm sure that's right. And it's also the best form of sustainability at work.
That sounds
And then,
right.
yeah, I mean, that is significant. And to date, DSW has given more than 6 million pairs of slightly worn shoes donated by customers to this micro enterprise. Again, just think about all out of landfills on people's feet doing, some really good work. And the other one is called For Every Kid. And we're on track to get new shoes on 1.5 million kids' feet experiencing homelessness by 2025. So again, here I go to DSW. I love the work. I love shoes. I love business, all that. But then the frosting on the cake is being able to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, my tenure on the board, my 6-year tenure has come to an end by the time people are listening to this. So I thoroughly enjoyed my time on the board, and the organization went from the throes of almost going and out of existence to thriving. And really, I mean, it's the organization under Buddy's leadership is just exploding right now. And it's so good to see. It's sad to see that there's this need that necessitates Social Souls to exist, while at the same time have the ability to see it grow and to meet the needs of children in particular here in the US is really heartwarming, to say the least.
I think that what's really neat too is the crossing lines where you think about who's the competition. And then when you come together on these boards with a common cause to do good, the whole industry, our whole shoe industry just gets lifted. And it's really cool. And that's how I met Matt. You're awesome. We're going to miss you. Let me stop for a minute and wipe the tear from my eye.
Exactly.
No, we will. You will be missed. And then, oh my gosh, what do I do now? I was offered a position at Sunrise Brands, like you said, to grow a newly established footwear division within the mothership of this denim and apparel company. So I'm going to take a little bit of an Academy Award moment and not forget to thank my team. I do have a partner, Griffin Gez, who is awesome. We share the responsibility of driving this thing. We complement each other. We're good at different things. And together we've been able to do some acquisitions that I'm going to talk about, which is super awesome. But don't get mad at me. Our head of sales, Ginny Bond, remember, shake, don't stir. Yep. Ginny Bond, yep. Sarah Fabrio, Colin Robertson, and Dana McCarthy are the dream team. So we started with Donald Pliner, but we newly acquired Joie, Current Elliott Equipment, and Rebecca Minkoff. And we also have NYDJ. So all of those shoe collections are either established, Donald Pliner for a long time, NYDJ for about a year, Joie we're just launching now, and Rebecca Minkoff is going to be in the August show. It is so fun to talk about growth when the industry's had some setbacks, right? Mm-hmm. So that's great. I do want us to talk a little bit about our chairman, Gerard Gez. He started Sassoon Jeans. Do you remember that? You guys are too young. Laying on the bed, trying to get your tight jeans on. And he did that with his family. Gerard is super creative. And in 1984, you guys have to look this up, did a marketing campaign with Elton John. And he changed the words, Elton did, of sad song to Sassoon, and did this. And it was explosive. I mean, it was super, super cool. He took the company public and then ultimately took it private again. Man, you guys talk about what I say, my wild life. This culture is wild, creative, adventurous. But my favorite part is Gerard and his business partner now, Todd Kay, their loyalty to the organization. So when COVID hit, Gerard used his own money. They didn't furlough one person, not one person. He dug in his pockets, and he always says, everybody's family. It doesn't matter what your last name is. And so I have found this to be, it was my first foray into wholesale, and everyone's been great at teaching me kind of the ropes, which is much different. But gosh, it has been really a fun time.
Well, a couple of things. You forgot to thank George Clooney in your Oscar.
No, I did. I know. All right.
And secondly, for folks who want to see some of the brands and Michelle's good work and Andy's hilarity, go to kicksovercoffee.com and you can peruse some of the Fanny videos from June Market and see where Andy talks to each of Michelle's brands. And it was awesome. The space you have there on Fifth Avenue,
I know, it's good, right?
Light and bright. It was great. It was perfect.
Yeah, we're having some fun. And like I said, I think if there's anything that, there's a lot of trepidation right now. People are being very cautious. If I could wave my magic wand, besides having George right next to me, would be, if something's blowing out, you got to reorder it because the customer's voting. And the other thing is to take a chance, because the industry needs to try new brands or revitalize brands, just even if it's a slow growth, because a customer wants something new. And we're going to have to really get, I say her, but her, him, all of them, they, to feel inspired. And I think we do that through really looking at some new players in the industry. A little innovation there.
Yeah, we're hearing from people about that too, is the diversification in retail right now, and showing new things and drawing people in and letting them make a choice, right? Because our closets are full of great, comfortable shoes, and now people are going back out again and, dressing up a little bit more. And so, they're looking for something a little bit different. And from a consumer standpoint, there seems like huge opportunity because people are coming out and saying, okay, like, what's new, right? And so you got a good salesperson on the floor, you got an opportunity, right?
I think we all know when you put on that favorite pair of shoes or something new or different, and it just feels good, and whether it's color or just pushing the boundaries a little bit, it's important, I think, that we have that offering for the customer.
That makes a lot of sense. Now,
yeah,
go ahead.
Nope.
The journey continues.
Yeah, hopefully I'm at my epilogue, but we'll
Whoa.
Okay,
Not yet.
Maybe another chapter doing something else, but maybe it's my movie career. I did move to LA. That didn't work out in my.
Where are you originally from? I mean, we've been in Columbus and Seattle and LA and New York.
Wisconsin. Oh yeah, I've lived in Chicago, LA, everywhere. I moved, Seattle, you name it. But I grew up in Wisconsin. So I thought I would
Good
maybe end, and then we could have some questions a little bit about. I got my leadership brand. I've been asked to talk about that a couple times. I've changed it a few times to really get down to who I am as a leader. If that's interesting to people, I don't know. But I do think actions speak louder.
Do it.
Okay, actions speak louder than words, right? And I know from starting in the stock room to being in the boardroom, people are people, and they all deserve to be treated with respect. The further at Nordstrom down the pyramid you go, or in the world up you go, pick up, push the broom, lift the box, take out the trash, do those things as servant leadership. I know that's kind of a catchphrase, but know everyone's birthday, spouses, kids, pets' names. Be genuinely interested, because you know what? It's a lot of fun to really learn about people, which is what this program is about. I put cultivate grit. I mean, I got my master's degree from the School of Hard Knocks. I think it's important you get back up again, and that you lend your hand and help your people get up again too, because there can be some tough days out there, and cultivate grit. You a cancer survivor or mother of six, you got to get up and you got to keep swinging. My third one, I only have 4, is don't be a jerk. Just don't. I was going to get a lot more colorful than that, but I'll leave it at that. But a really good friend of mine loves a quote by Jackie Robinson: "A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives." So just be a good person. And the last one is be obsessed about customer service, because regardless of what you do, whether you drive an Amazon truck or you work at a restaurant or you are a shoe dog like us, there's a customer at the other end.
Those are your Michele Love-isms right there, Andy.
And
I love
don't be
them.
And when we're not on air, I will tell you how I usually say that, but I will keep it a family show.
I think we have a feeling for that. We have a good feeling for what that means. But I think it just comes down to taking care of people, whether it's the people you work with or the people you're serving. Just take care of people. It's as simple as that. And I think sometimes life gets away from us, or we get distracted, or we get easily upset or confused, and then we lose sight of that. But it does draw back to that. So, and I think it bores out for business too. I mean, if you take care of your people, they're going to take care of you. If you take care of your customer, they're going to buy your product.
And just to wrap this up with a bow, guys, I'm going to quote the last sentence of your post, Andy. I don't have my glasses on. Don't neglect to live in the present and tell people you love them every day.
Yep.
So live in the present, tell people you love them every day. I love you, Andy. I love you, Matt.
I love you, Michele Love.
Thank you.
I love you, Michele. I love you, Matt. And I love you to all our listeners. Again, this is Shoe and Show. We're at shoeandshow.com. This has been a fantastic conversation. This is what we love about the podcast, is being able to listen to people's stories, because it does connect. The stories connect. That's why we ask people their shoe stories. It connects. This is not an isolated story in the shoe industry. There are many people, maybe different journeys, maybe not as wild, maybe not as met George Clooney, but the stories remain about how someone got into the industry and found a love of shoes and found a love of people that they work with and caring about the customer. And that pours out again every single time. So we have many more episodes like this where leaders come on and talk about culture and talk about their journeys. And we encourage you guys to go back and listen to those on shoeandshow.com. Michele, you guys showing in August, Fanny, correct?
We sure do.
All right. And December, I'm sure. And hereafter. And again, it was Fifth Avenue. Is that correct, Matt? That we went down?
375 Fifth Avenue. We're building a new showroom, but that's our spot through December.
Okay.
And it's sure good to see people in person, I got to say. So please come visit us. And
amen to that.
And amen and hallelujah.
And with that, Shoein' is out.
Shoein has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.